Hi, this video is about something which comes up thematically in my coaching for the MTPT project, and it's the art of having a difficult conversation, which is something that all teachers returning from parental leave potentially need to have, because when you become a parent, certain things can shift, priorities can shift, and there might be something you want from work in order to be successful in all elements of your life. And there are certain things which get in the way, I think, of us being really clear and robust in these conversations. And those are things like perhaps not thinking it through and not being clear on what we want. Secondly, maybe lacking a bit of confidence, being a bit out of the loop with school and knowing what's going on. I think we can feel like we owe our school something as we return. And then lastly, but also quite powerfully, some of us, I think this is a gremlin, that sweeping statement that a lot of women have, which is this need to please, and so asking for what we want is quite counter perhaps to that. And so I've come across this structure in a book called Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott, and it's a 7-part structure which gives you the framework to create an opening statement in a meeting, such as a return to work meeting. And I've had a go at writing out an opening statement, potentially for if I was returning to work and asking for what I want. And this is really, this video is an attempt to kind of kick off a bit of a dialogue. You know, what works in this situation? What is the benefit of having a difficult conversation versus, tiptoeing round the elephants in the room? I'm really interested in your thoughts. So the 7 steps that Susan Scott has come up with are as follows. Number 1, name the issue really clearly. Secondly, illustrate that with an example of a specific example of the situation or the behaviour that you want to change. Thirdly, explain your emotion about the issue. What's the impact on you? How is it making you feel? Fourthly, clarify what is at stake if this issue is not resolved. Number 5, what's your contribution been to the issue? That sort of accepting responsibility to a degree for what's arisen. Number 6, express that wish to resolve the issue. And finally, invite your partner to respond, give their side of what's going on. So here goes. So starting off with naming the issue. So the issue I would like to talk about is the lack of clarity over the possibility of returning to my leadership role in a part-time capacity. And an example of the lack of clarity is that before I went on maternity leave, I was told that this would be possible, but since then there have been some email exchanges suggesting that there needed to be more discussions, concerns around timetabling and concerns around setting a precedent. And my emotion about this issue not being resolved is that I'm worried that if I have to come back full time, I'll struggle to balance the responsibilities of being a good parent and also doing the very best I can for our students. And I also feel quite upset at perhaps having to give up my leadership responsibilities and the learning and growth that is such a big part of who I am and what I want. If I am able to come back in that part-time capacity, we can continue to build on the success we've had working collaboratively on the strategy for the department. And if it's not resolved, I feel I really have to look closely at other options and perhaps moving on to a place where I can use my leadership skills and my full capacity. I realised that I could have raised this issue earlier in order to get it resolved, and I accept responsibility for not doing that. I really want to resolve this issue by having a clear dialogue, perhaps mapping out the pros and cons for both parties, and coming to an agreement. And I'm really hopeful we can do that because I love my job and I want to stay here. So I'm really interested in your perspective and what's going on from your side. So I wonder how that sounds, and even the process of having that conversation for me feels a bit uncomfortable. So it was quite helpful to have that framework, to have a script, and I sort of grew a bit in confidence actually as I went through it. And I had to think about the leaders who I've respected in my career, and it often is the leaders who are able to confront an issue before it becomes more than it needs to be. So I'd invite you to have a think about this, and maybe we can have a bit of a dialogue about it. Thank you. Any thoughts appreciated?